What do you do if you're a young, unmarried woman in the UK at the beginning of World War II? The young men have gone to war. Your married friends are either with child or at home, worried about their husbands. Study? Well, you're a woman, so it's very unlikely that you have a place at university. Focus on your job? You could, if you are one of 32% of women who are allowed to have one. But more likely you're going to have to find something else to do. How about farming? This is On the Homefront, a sub-series of World War II in real time. I'm Deinhard. If you have seen our Between Two Wars episode about the Home Revolution in the 1930s, you will have seen how Indy and I explained the situation of women in the Western world. While global depression sees marriage and birth rates drop and more women go to work, it's still a man's world. Women are expected to get a man, have children, and make the home. If they work, it's surely not going to be hard manual labor. In fact, this is even considered uncivilized. But now we're at war, and many men that were supposed to plow the fields, harvest the crops, and muck out the barn have gone to the front. At least that's how the politicians and administrators in London are thinking. Perhaps forgetting or not even knowing that over 100,000 British women are already working in farming. Servants in farmhouses whose duties extend to the barns and fields, while others are part of farming families. The domestic agricultural sector is also fairly small in the United Kingdom, with less than 15% of labor force compared to over 30% in Germany and 20% in the US. The UK relies on food imports from the continent and British colonies, but the war, especially German submarine wolf packs, are putting a stop to that. So already in 1940, there is a lack of food. This can create a tragedy at home, but it can also lose the war, since a starving army can't fight. So suddenly, when it's an issue of war, putting women to work is a priority for the government. One of their ideas is to send an army of young women to the countryside to farm, the Women's Land Army. An army essential to the war effort, but that will not suffer and die on the front. It is, however, these horrors that are on the young women's minds as they walk away. Or, as landgirl Rose Parrott puts in a poem at the time, a world of chaos, a world at war, destruction as never seen before. A world of heartbreak, world of fear, and misery so hard to bear. Armies wrong and armies right, marching forth to kill and fight. And lo, the toll of death was high. An army came, but not to kill, only hungry mouths to fill. An army clad in brown and green, about the countryside was seen. Around the farmyards, on the roads, with horses carrying heavy loads. A women's army, firm of hand, had come to conquer on the land. It isn't actually a new idea. At the outbreak of the Great War in 1914, women volunteered to go to the farms, and in 1917, the first Women's Land Army was officially created. But it was not without controversy. Many thought it insane that women can take up male work. Early in the war, it was even a point of pride that women didn't labor for the nation. That was for the less civilized continental nations, but the hardship of war changed these views. With 27,000 women serving from 1917 to 1919, it made a difference. But again, many women were already farming, so it wasn't huge. However vital the were to the war effort or not, the Land Army and all the other industries and organizations women joined during the war is a step towards more gender parity in the workplace. Before the Great War, the average pay for women stood about 40% of the average man. Until 1938, it rises to 47%. It's not much, but the independent buying power of women is increasing. It also contributes towards many women demanding the right to vote, which we also covered in our Between Two Wars episode Sex, Drugs and the Right to Vote. In any case, Once again, in 1939, the British government are nervous about how to feed the population in case of another total war. In June, Minister of Agriculture, Colonel Sir Reginald Dorman Smith, revised the Women's Land Army. A man decides, and a woman, gender equality activist Gertrude Baroness Denman, is made the honorary head, and they begin asking for volunteers. Most come from the countryside, but around a third are from the cities, many leaving home for the very first time in their lives. It is again controversial. In the House of Commons, MP Thomas Williams feels the need to ask Dorman Smith whether the land girls are being trained to drive tractors in peacetime too, or only for a time of emergency. Dorman Smith assures the anxious politician that it's just for the time of crisis. When the war breaks out in September, recruitment ramps up. The government are mainly looking for young, unmarried and healthy women. Only around 1 in 4 applicants are accepted. And it's not a light thing to do. It's a commitment for the duration of war, and they sign a contract that tells them, you have made the home fields your battlefield. Your country relies on your loyalty and welcomes your help. As the war takes on bigger and bigger proportions in 1940, attitudes begin to change and a sense of urgency sets in. In August, the Manpower Requirements Committee urges the necessity of women workers. But still, in 1941, only around 20,000 women are land girls. Still not enough to make up for the labor shortfall. Obligatory conscription for women will be introduced at the end of the year. But for now, social conservatism is discouraging many women from joining. The land girls are poorly paid, on average 38 shillings a week, 9 shillings less than a male farmhand. And work is hard. 48 hours a week in winter and 50 in summer. Opportunities for social life are pretty rare. Or, as land girl Doris Una Ball will later write, by working hard, long hours, my colleagues and I were always too tired for much of a social life. The pay was a mere pittance and we couldn't afford to go out in the town. Nevertheless, we laughed and sang, I'll be with you in apple blossom time, white cliffs of Dover, the sailor with the navy blue eyes, etc. I went to the pictures once a week with a farmer's daughter and an odd dance. My fiancé was posted to the Far East and I didn't see him again until the war ended. The hard realities of total war now means that victory can only be achieved with the help of these very young women. In the spring of 1941, the British government have realized this, and the following years will cement the Women's Land Army as a central feature of wartime culture. But again, when the war ends, this will at first be forgotten. The land girls will only receive official recognition as war veterans in 2008, after a campaign by former land girl Hilda Gibson, who writes, back when life was black and white and not 1,000 shades of grey, a call went out for girls like us to join the WWII. To be alive at such a time meant living was intensified. New tasks, new hardship, joy and pain distilled into a sense of pride. We looked within ourselves and found a person we had never known, with qualities of inner strength and independence newly grown. From urban life to rural fields, from office, factory and shop, replacing men who left to fight and trust to us each season's crop. Remember us? We worked long days till hands were rough and backs were sore, giving our all and finding strength each day to give a little more. But rising in the morning mist and toiling in the summer haze, this time was ours, a job well done, we will remember all our days. The first memorial to the women who served will only be unveiled in 2012, a few months before Hilda passes away. You can click here for our Between Two Wars episode about the Home Revolution any second now. To feed our forces, we depend on the Time Ghost Army. You can sign up on Patreon or timeghost.tv. Make sure to subscribe and ring that bell. And as poet Nikita Gill wrote, and when they dare to tell you about all the things you cannot be, you smile and tell them, I am both war and woman, and you cannot stop me.